Well, do you have a moment to talk about our Lord? Do you want to talk about elves? Oh my god, I should decorate. You just watch this intro and like, no wait, I can't leave. Because I didn't automate this. I have to click so the little silmarils fly around and the little dragons fly around. Well, I will decorate. I will decorate later. Look, we have a little theme going on today. And flames in part 3. Woo, I'm glad you're back. There we go. Look, I decorated. You can't see it, and it will probably fall off soon. But I put a little map there. I love maps. There's gonna be a lot of maps today, since we will be talking about this chunk, which includes the geography chapter, which I love and cherish. We also have a little bit of a theme going on today. Guess what it is. You will never get there. Anyways, let's go. A little bit of a recap first, though. It's been a while since part 2. If you're coming directly from part 2, skip this. But a little bit of a recap first. Also names. I'm just showing this to you again because it's been a while. And there's a lot of names, and I'm gonna throw a lot of names at you today. We talked about Fëanor. He was an important one. He has 7 sons. We talked about his eldest Mithras so far, like, by name. The other ones... We'll get to them when we get to them, right? Fingolfin is an important guy, half-brother of Fëanor. Very important. He has kids who also show up by name. This guy, Finarfin, does not show up anymore for a very, very long time. His kids are there, though, okay? Look at these names. Have a good look? Okay, that's been it. So, recap. Morgoth steals Fëanor's shiny rocks, the Silmarils, and kills his dad and also destroys the 2 trees. We miss the 2 trees very much. They're dead now. No more light. Exit Morgoth, pursued by Fëanor. There they go. Fëanor and his people swear the oath, the oath of Fëanor, and commit 1 kinslay. Fingolfin's people are kinda along for the ride. They also kinslay, but kinda on accident, so they're considered a little bit less guilty. The doom of Mandos is being spoken, and the Noldor are exiled from the west now. Finarfin, the third one of these brothers, said fuck this and goes back home and is pardoned. His kids join Fingolfin, though, like his kids, Galadriel, Finrod, and the other 2. The Fëanorians are still ahead, and they sail to Middle-earth, and they burn the ships that they arrived with. Fëanor promptly runs into a Balrog and dies. So, since the boats are burned now, sailing is kind of out of the question. So Fingolfin's people are on a very shitty hike right now, while the eldest son of Fëanor got captured by the Dark Lord, and, is there now. So much for the recap, so much for the Noldor. Forget all of that now. Because you, my dearest friend, imagine, you are a Sindar elf. You live in Doriath and Beleriand. You're one of these elves that has started the journey westwards, but they never made it to Aman. You've been chilling in Beleriand. You've been chilling in Doriath. You don't know anything about all of that stuff I just told you about. You don't know that the trees got murked, because all of that light never made it to Middle-earth anyways. You just had nighttime the whole time with some stars, very nice. And that has been your life so far. One day, you hear that some elves have returned from the west, the Noldor, and immediately won a battle against Morgoth, which is great, because since that guy came back, you've had a little bit of a complicated time. Your queen did set up like a magical barrier around your kingdom of Doriath, which has been great, but it's still been a little bit stressful since Morgoth came back. So great! They won against him. Apparently maybe they came back to help you. Nice, wonderful, okay. A few years pass. You don't hear much about them. You know that they're still, like, somewhere up there north, chilling on some lake. Okay, but a few years pass, nothing much happens. Then suddenly this thing shows up in the sky. Sure, okay. For a certain amount of time, that thing just goes around in the sky by itself. Okay. And suddenly, boom! And you think, what the actual fuck? The sun and the moon. My light balance also works great with the theme we have going on right now. Yeah, I think this is a moment that Tolkien himself probably imagined as, like, beautiful, ethereal. The elves probably instinctively know that this is, like, light that's coming from the Valar and this holy or something. But I personally imagine it as everyone starting to scream. Also getting sunburn. But yeah, back in the West, the Valar have used one last flower from the silver tree and one last fruit from the golden tree to create the sun and the moon. And to Maya, they needed someone to take the sun and the moon across the sky, and to Maya volunteered to take these two thingies through the sky. Little would you, the Sinda elf who's been chilling in Doriath so far, know of all the trouble these two glowy things in the sky heralded. Let's talk a little bit more about these two glowy things in the sky, the sun and the moon. Here you have beautiful art by an artist who does a lot of Silmarillion fan art, which is unique and beautiful. Yes, this whole PowerPoint may just also be an excuse for me to talk about artists I love. So the sun and the moon were originally supposed to go across the sky like this, so they meet in the middle and just go back and forth, kind of similar to how the trees used to work. Thing is, though, that Tilion, the Maya who was in charge of the moon, he was not very good with that pattern, and also having night would be nice, so the plan changed a little bit to this. Sun and moon go underneath the world, which is still flat at this point. And that is kind of how it goes, but Tilion is still not great at that pattern. He has a little bit too much ADHD for that. He gets sidetracked a bunch. And also he really likes Arian, the Maya who takes the sun across the sky, and never seeing her would be unacceptable, because that is how that pattern would work. They would never meet each other. So he's sometimes in the sky with her when he shouldn't be. And that is why the moon is like that. Morgoth tries to fight the moon. Morgoth loses against the moon. I will not give you any more context on that. So that whole trying to kill the moon business gave the Valar flashbacks to the last time that Melkor destroyed their lamps, their light sources. Also, they really don't want the exiled Noldor to be able to get back to Aman, so they hide Valinor, the hiding of Valinor, which basically just means that they raise their mountains, like you have that mountain range over here, that one, the Pelori. They raise that mountain range just like absurdly high. It was high already, they make it worse. And they also create the Enchanted Isles, which is like these little islands over here. Which are like magical islands that you get really confused by when you try to pass them. And now it is time for my buddy. Listen, because you may remember that those elves, like that part of the Noldor, that decided that everything is walking distance with the right mindset, they were still on their way, right? And they made it! They did it, most of them, at last. A lot froze to death, but hey, they made it. They crossed that frozen land bridge, the Halkaraxe. You see, they walked all this way. Up here is the dicey part. That is where they crossed that frozen land bridge and lost a lot of people to the cold. Apparently, elves can freeze to death. I wish Mandos would have gone into more detail about that, because I am very confused. Anyways, but yeah, they made it. Yippee! They arrive at the exact moment when the moon rises for the very first time. And they basically just find chaos with Feanor's people. Number one, Feanor is dead. Kind of sad. I imagine that they really, really, really had a strong word that they wanted to share with him, but alas. They also find that the guy who would be next in line for being the High King, Maithros, is still hanging around in Angband. So they're kind of having a king problem. And also, of course, they still hate the Feanorians a lot because of that whole ship-burning business, and a lot of people died when they walked all the way. Time for one guy and one guy only to step up and solve all of those problems, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between and outside of that spectrum. Let me introduce you to my guy, Fingon. Yay! Fingon. You may have heard his name before. You may have read his name before. Over here, he's the oldest son of Fingolfin. You may have heard of him before with that whole ship-burning business when Maithros, the eldest son of Feanor, was like, okay, we're bringing Fingon along, right? I can excuse kinslaying, but I draw the line at not bringing my boy Fingon along. That one. I love him. Yeah, you now have all of these exiled Noldor in one place, but they refuse to talk to each other. Like, they set up camp on opposite sides of a lake because they don't want to talk to each other. And with that kind of setup, it's only a matter of time until Morgoth uses that against them, because, you know, they're divided and are very weak because of that. So, my boy is now on a quest. That quest consists of point 1, gotta free Mithras, gotta free the bestie. Number 2, also he should make the people, like the Fëanor Noldor and the Fingolfin Noldor, they should get along, or else they'll be fucked up by the Dark Lord pretty quickly. Step 3, success. And honestly, I don't think he had more of a plan, like more of a detailed plan than that. Because, okay, so my bro simply walks into Mordor, Eret Engrin. He just walks through the mountains and can't find his bestie, but he is on his way to find his bestie, okay? In times of despair like that, time to play a little tune. Like, he takes out his harp and sings a little tune. I love him. He went into the devil's lair and was like, you know what, I'm gonna pack my little harp. I think I'm gonna need that. I don't know, maybe he was waiting for, like, the devil went down to Georgia kind of situation. By the way, that comic that just went across the screen is like a full illustration of that scene that you can look at, because it's my favorite artist. But yeah, so he plays his little tune, and what is this? Is that a faint voice somewhere joining in his song? It's this guy! It's Mithras. He is hanging from some cliff, super high up and unreachable. You remember, that's where we left him a couple decades ago. He's still there. Yeah, so then a bunch of drama ensues, because Mithras asks Fingon to just shoot him, and Fingon, of course, doesn't want to shoot his bestie, but he goes to do it anyways, and he prays to Manwë, the god of the king of the Valar, and one of his eagles arrive. The great eagles are coming. By the way, the eagles are under direct command of Manwë, the king of the Valar. So every time the eagles show up, that is direct divine intervention. So much for not even the echoes of your lamentation shall reach us. But okay, yeah. So, great. Eagle shows up. Eagle gives Fingon a ride, and they fly up. Problem is, though, that Shackle is fucking cursed or something, and nothing can cut it, and Mithras is still like, just kill me, please. And then Fingon makes an executive decision. Do you see the resolve in his eyebrow right there? If the shackle won't come off, then the hand needs to come off. The eagle, nicely enough, taxis them back to the Noldor's camp. Step 1, success. The bestie has been rescued, and over time, no idea how long, Mithras does recover. Good for him. And it says that he lived to wield his sword with the left hand more deadly than his right has been, which sounds incredibly impressive until you hear that elves are ambidextrous. But to be fair, that is something that Tolkien just wrote in one obscure letter, and he apparently just forgot that he made multiple references to it being hard to do things with your left hand, but hey. It is now time to tackle step 2. Why do I still look like the light of the trees is right in my face? Hey, white balance? No? Okay. So step 2, heal that family feud, because, then Fingolfin Noldor and the Fëanor Noldor still don't like each other. The thing is, though, when rescuing Mithras, Fingon didn't know that Mithras was the only one to not participate in that whole burning the ships business, and wanted to bring the people of Fingolfin, especially Fingon, along. He didn't know any of that, and rescued him anyways. So everyone is already like, what a cool dude that Fingon is. That is, honor upon that guy. He's so cool and so swag, and Mithras' people are, of course, very thankful. So we already have a little bit less of a grudge of Fëanor's people towards Fingolfin's people. And, Fingolfin's people also have a lot of respect for Fingon. So if he goes to rescue him, also already pretty good. And the remaining grievances get largely resolved by Maethros just giving up his claim to the High Kingship and gives it to Fingolfin. Because the thing is, we have a little bit of a succession crisis on the horizon. You remember Finwë was the High King, okay, and after he died, his eldest son Fëanor became High King after him. Okay, that makes sense so far. Problem is Fëanor is fucking dead now. What you gonna do now? Is his eldest son gonna become High King next, or is the next eldest son of Finwë gonna be High King now? A little bit of an unclear. I mean, so far they didn't have to deal with death as a concept, so kind of makes sense that they weren't prepared for this kind of situation. But yeah, that succession crisis would have probably torn apart the Noldor pretty quickly if they hadn't done that, so good for them. Fingon saved the day. He's the strongest piece of propaganda the Noldor have, I'm fucking telling you. Together we string. So yeah, success. All of the Noldor are now at least like on speaking terms, and they immediately use that power of being united. And together they managed to establish a siege against Morgoth and Angband, which holds up for like 400 years. So they, find some strategically advantageous places. So they managed to keep Morgoth like behind this line in the north in Angband. So they now have a long, relatively chill time to get comfy and set up their kingdoms and fiefdoms and stuff. And they do that. So you know what time it is now? The geography chapter! Woo! Yay! I love the geography chapter. I'm gonna throw a lot of names at you. That is why I'm showing you the family tree again. And to make it easier, I also color-coded it for you. So we have the Fëanorians in red, the people of Fingolfin in blue, and the people of Finarfin in yellow. Also, everyone who is highlighted is alive and there. Everyone who is not highlighted is either dead or not there. For example, as you can see, Finarfin. Finarfin is not there. Okay, his kids are there though. There is a map in the Silmarillion with like all of the names and stuff. Where it shows where everyone hangs out, which I could have just shown to you, but I love my maps and I love talking about them, so I'm gonna do it this way. The world is in your books and maps. Don't go out there, it sucks out there. I cannot. That quote is cute and everything, but I cannot forgive the Hobbit movies for it. It's the most un-Tolkienian shit they could have written. Anyway, so, woo, map time. Okay, so, let's get started. I'm talking too much. Also, I need to remember to breathe when I talk about things I find interesting, because breathing is important. Okay, so we already know Doriath. We know that King Thingol and Queen Melian are in Doriath. That is where they chill. That is where they live. That is their jurisdiction. Is that their jurisdiction is the question here, because the Noldor don't agree with that. The Noldor have arrived over here in Lammoth, and they've just been chilling at this lake so far, on opposite sides, well, because they didn't want to talk to each other. They talk to each other now, though. And to set up their siege, they found some strategically advantageous points around here, so they can keep Morgoth up there and please not coming into Beleriand proper. So yeah, they find their places along this line, and King Thingol of Doriath like, yes, I am allowing you to settle there. And the Noldor are like, sure, we would have done that either way, but cool, good to know. And Thingol is like, yes, because I am king of all of Beleriand. And the Noldor are like, sure you are, grandpa. They disagree on that one. So yeah, since the Noldor have arrived over there, the people of Fingolfin just kind of stay up there. So they have their main little fortress over here at Ethelsirion. Wait, I'm gonna draw a little fortress. Oh god, how am I gonna draw a little fortress? Look, it has a little tower, and it has like battlements and shit. Oh god, it's not very... Anyways, this is a little castle. This is a little fortress. Okay, so this is where like Fingolfin hangs out. He is the High King, as you may notice. Fingolfin. This place is a little bit like Minas Tirith-ish, because it's like the place where the king hangs out, and it's also in line of sight of the bad, evil place. His son Fingon, his oldest son Fingon, is in charge of the Olomen, and his next oldest son Turgon is in Neverast. Okay, that is where they hang out. Next up, we have the Fëanorians. They go eastwards. They kind of cover that bit. We have Mithras has his little fortress over here. Himring has a little hill fort. I wasn't going to draw a little castle. It's a little wonky, but it's okay. So here we have Mithras hanging out. We have his brother Maglor taking care of this little bit where it would be easy to get through the mountains. His brother Caranthir has this whole bit. His troublemaking brothers he stations over there, and the two youngest brothers, the twins, if both of them are alive, are down there as far away from anything as possible. So yeah, that is where they hang out. Then we have the people of Finarfin. Finarfin himself, as we remember, is not there. In the beginning, most of them actually hang out in Doriath because Thingol's cool with them, because he is actually related to them over their mom. So most of the Noldor he's actually very, very suspicious of. He does not trust them at all. He can't really put his finger on why, though. But he thinks they're suspicious. Yes, I say suspicious on purpose. I know it's suspicious. Suspicious is a better word, though. So yeah, most of them are actually hanging out there. So Galadriel is there. Her brothers, Aignor and... Oh, you can't read that if I write that in yellow. I'm just gonna write it in that. Maybe you can see it then. A plus A. Aignor and Angrod, I know their names, are up there. And Galadriel is hanging out in Doriath because she met the love of their life there, our guy, Tilapuano, yay! Her brother Finrod, though, is very, very impressed with the capital city of Doriath, which is Menegroth, which is an underground city. He's very impressed with that, and he would like one for himself. And he found one by himself, because he just happened to have a prophecy dream together with his bestie, Turgon, over here. They both went out on a little trip and both had prophetic dreams, where Ulmo, the Lord of Waters, who you will hear about quite a lot more, he is one of the Valar, and he is in charge of everything water-ish, and he is the one who's like in the most direct contact with the elves and humans. And he tells them to go and found hidden cities. They don't tell each other about that. They both think they're the only one who's been told to make a hidden city. So Finrod relocates over here to Nargothrond, where he makes his own hidden underground city. And Turgon actually moves from Nevrast over here to Gondolin and makes also his own little hidden city, Gondolin. His sister, Arethel, also follows him and also lives in Gondolin. So he's off the map and nobody fucking knows where he is. Nargothrond, the place where Finrod hangs out over here, is technically a hidden city, but it's like not that hidden. Some people know where it is, but nobody fucking knows where Gondolin is. So yeah. Did I miss anyone? We have Finarfin's people, we have Galadriel over here, we have her little brothers over there. We got Nargothrond, and we got Gondolin. Círdan. We need to remember Círdan is also there. You remember that guy who was looking for King Thingol and missed his chance to go to the west because he was looking for him? He's hanging out over here. There's Círdan. Círdan is over there. I'm gonna write Finrod over here. Yippee. Okay, we got them set up. Wonderful. What happens next? Well, what happens next is that, like I said, Galadriel is still hanging out in Doriath. Because Thingol was cool with her. He's suspicious of the rest of the Noldor, and he finds out why. Because Galadriel didn't snitch. She didn't actively tell anyone about anything. But Queen Melian of Doriath is very insightful. Maybe that is where Galadriel learned her whole insightfulness from, and kind of figures out the whole kinslaying business. Which is a little bit awkward because, like the Teleri who were slain, are like the people of Thingol. They're also like kind of related, and that's not good and kind of awkward. So now having his suspicion kind of what's it called? Fuck. Shit. Having his suspicion confirmed. Having his suspicion confirmed. This took a while for a very basic word. So yeah, now King Thingol has his suspicion confirmed. He still lets Fingon, Galadriel, and their two little brothers be in Doriath and everything, because number one, they didn't participate in the kinslaying. Number two, he is still related with them, and it's also kind of their people over their mom who got slayed and stuff. So like, they're good. The rest of the Noldor, though, big diplomatic problems right there. What King Thingol does about it, though, is that he bans Quenya, the language that the Noldor are speaking. Honestly, he could have done much worse with that information. You know, he didn't destabilize the whole region over that, which I think is self-discipline, maybe? I don't know. Anyways, Quenya is banned now, officially, from the guy who says he's the king of all Beleriand, but the Noldor just say, no, you're not the king of all of Beleriand, and how are you gonna, like, this is not under your jurisdiction, we can do whatever the fuck we want, but Sindarin still kind of becomes the language that everyone speaks in Beleriand, because it's just easier to communicate with everyone else. Even the Noldor start partially just talking Sindarin with each other, but you know, they still speak Quenya even though it's banned, because what's Thingol gonna do about it? So we got everyone set up, we know what languages they speak, very important for Tolkien stuff. So there's just one last thing we should talk about real quick. One last thing that happened when the sun rose for the very first time, and that is humans. Humans exist now. The humans have woken up when the sun rose for the very first time. Like the elves, they have woken up, aka started existing somewhere far in the east. This way is east because of the mirror. Like, this is my east, this is your east. My map. Yeah, the humans have woken up far in the east. And like the elves, a bunch of them will come westwards in time, but you know, they just started existing. Give them a little bit of time and they'll come around. So this is technically it with story things happening, but as you can see from this very, very big Telepono in the background in this fucking thing, I have something to say about time, which isn't necessarily important for the story going forward, but I think it's very interesting because time is very weird at this point. What I mean by that is that now that the sun and the moon rose, 1 year is actually 1 year long, you know, like our years, also called sun years in that context. Because before that, a year was longer. How much longer exactly? Don't ask Tolkien when it involves being consistent with numbers. There's different values. The value that is printed in the Lord of the Rings appendix for a Valiant year, you know, Valiant, like the years of the Valar, is 144 normal years, equaling 1 Valiant year. That is printed in the Lord of the Rings appendix, so you could see that as being canon. The thing is, though, if you apply that to the Silmarillion timeline, nothing makes sense. Because everyone just moves at an incredibly slow pace. For example, if you take these 144 years equaling 1 Valiant year, then the people of Fingolfin walking from Aman over the Helcaraxe to Beleriand would be like over 400 years. Which, you know, they already they walk for a long time, but like 400 years is a little much. Also, like, you know, Maethros would be in Angband for like 300 years or something. Like, you know, doesn't really make much sense, and that is because at the time of writing all of this, Tolkien still worked with a different ratio, where I wrote valiant years, sure, where 1 valiant year equals about 10 sun years, like 9 point something. So, you know, in the Silmarillion, Fingolfin's people walking over the Helcaraxe and making it to Beleriand, that takes them like 30 years, yeah. You know, makes a little bit more sense. It's still a long-ass time, but not 400. Yeah, so, like, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense, like, with the different values and trying to calculate all that. Thing is, though, I think with Tolkien, vibes come first and logic second. And I think, considering the vibes, I really like this change of longer years to shorter years. Because this is also kind of the point where we go from, like, the more mythological Silmarillion stuff to the historical Silmarillion stuff. Like, from now on, it feels officially more like Beowulf than the Old Testament, you know? And I really like the, like, literally going from, like, mytho time to more historical, quote, air quotes, time. I like that literally time changes. I think that's really cool, going from this vague stuff that takes a gazillion years to something a little bit more concrete and like our years. I think that's really cool. So, everything in that world is now literally existing at a faster pace. Buckle up and let's go, you know? So yeah, buckle up for next time when we will be talking about these 400 years that the Siege of Angband is holding up. I know I just said that everything's gonna get faster, but the next one's actually gonna be a little bit more chill, because the whole timeline of the Silmarillion kind of looks like very chill and slow. Suddenly everything happens in the span of a very few years, and then the Siege of Angband goes for like 400 years, and then everything happens again at once. So next one is gonna be a little bit more chill. We'll, you know, see what they do in these 400 years. Thank you for listening. See you next time. Bye.